The man who's promising to try to put it back on track is none other than the opposition leader and the member for Dixon. Please welcome Peter Dutton. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Great to see you. Great to see you.
Thank you.
So, Peter, thank you very much, and thank you to everyone who is here. Look, I paint a picture that no doubt people will say, oh, geez, it's just reading off an ad. But the reality is that all of that stuff isn't made up. That is the actual lived experience of somebody whose business has fallen apart, about people who were promised 3 years ago that everything would get better, and that people who have had to pay tens of thousands of dollars more to pay off a house. So I love when the Prime Minister turns around and says that you've painted a dark picture. Well, you're using the brush that is the numbers that come from his own government.
Well, just take one number, Paul. 29,000 small businesses have closed over the last 2.5, 3 years, and it's a number that just rolls off our tongue. But the reality is that behind each one of those business failures, somebody's lost their home, somebody's lost their life savings, their dream and their aspiration, and that is a record number of business closures in our country's history. And the Prime Minister doesn't utter a word about it. And that's just one example, I think, of the reality for many Australians at the moment. The 7 consecutive quarters where households have been in recession under this government, again without precedent in our country's history. And the Prime Minister wants people to believe that everything's okay, be thankful, be grateful for the 3 great years he's delivered. And that's not the lived reality for many, many Australians.
We've heard in the past week or so about what the apparent values of each political party is, and you're on the right side of this or they're on the wrong side of that. It was your budget in reply speech that focused on food bank. Now, again, with 3 and a bit million people, households, so it's more than those people, don't not know where the food's going to come from. You decided to elevate that, right? I mention it right now, not because I'm rolling out the red carpet, but because the reality of that is people who should be doing better are doing worse, and this government has spent more money advertising itself than helping out those sorts of charities.
I just think the argument's compelling, and when we've moved around to different food banks and different charities and church groups and others who are dispensing food, providing support to families, what they've told us is that people who are coming through the door now are the working poor, people who are working full-time jobs and yet are turning up, having to turn up to ask cap in hand for a food package for their children, people who are living rough. This is a big issue in our electorate here in Dixon, where people are camping out, they're in tents, they're living in the backs of cars. That doesn't have any place in our country. We have the ability to help people, and unfortunately the government's taken decisions which do hurt people. And so we announced $50 million in the budget to provide support to Food Bank and a couple of other, well, hopefully many others across the country that we can provide that support to, and hopefully provide an opportunity and a pathway forward for those families who are really, really struggling.